All right, good evening, everyone. It is 5:45. We are going to call the meeting to order. Roll call. We have everyone here, I believe. We're looking for Councillor Moyer yet to come in, I believe. So we have quarter revision for the Van Massenhoven drain, and the appointment of members is myself, Deputy Mayor Cornelison, and Councillor Hemming. We need a motion, I believe. No, we don't need a motion on that at the time. So we'll get a report from our drainage superintendent. And so, John Lampman, you're going to do that?
Correct. Okay. Members of the court, what you have in front of you is a report to council to enter the quarter revision on the Van Massenhoven drain. The recommendation is that the quarter revision confirm the assessment schedules as detailed in our Dobbin Engineers report dated December 16th, 2020, and that a motion be passed to accept the assessments. There was one individual that was on the drain that was on when we did the meeting to consider. I don't believe he's on tonight. He did have a couple of questions and concerns, but we have spoken to him before the meeting and he didn't register to come in and say anything. So you have a recommendation in front of you. Barring no questions or concerns, yeah, go forward.
All right. Questions from the committee? From the Court of Adjustment? Questions? No questions. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hemming. Okay, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Hemming, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cornelison. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. I believe that's it for this. We have go ahead, Jackie.
We'll just have a motion to adjourn quarter revisions.
Yeah. And then we'll have a brief recess until 6 o'clock. So if we get a motion to adjourn, Deputy Mayor Cornelison, seconded by Councillor Hemming. All in favor? Carried. All right, we will adjourn until 6 o'clock.
And mute your microphones.
Okay, thank you. We are back. I reconvene, call the meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. We do have Councillor Moyer. We have everyone here is present. One thing I should mention, if any pecuniary interest, please notify the clerk in writing if you come upon them. At this time, we also need to pass the minutes of the previous meeting from February 17th, 2021. Is there any business arising, or Councillor Moyer?
Hi, evening, everyone. Just need some clarification on the ATV and off-road vehicle. Reading through that a little bit more carefully, I know we talked about farm use vehicles for agricultural purpose, that they were exempt from this bylaw. But reading through that, all I see is that they're exempt to cross the road. It doesn't say anything about going down the road.
Who's going to speak on that? Jackie, were you going to speak on that?
So if you're just referring to the minutes, the content, what we're looking for, if that is what is described, I think council will note that there is a report, as a result of that staff report, there was going to be a further report that's going to draft a bylaw that council will have consideration and take into account if there's any specific things, but that there is a follow-up report coming on that.
Okay.
With the draft bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or business from the minutes? Seeing none, we have a motion. We need a motion. Councillor McClinchy, seconded by Councillor Moyer. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. It is 6 o'clock and we have a public meeting for consideration of temporary use zoning bylaw amendment for 4 Alma Street. And the owners are Garrett and Tracy Roberts. And we will start with Stephanie. If you could do your report, please. We have, yeah. Hi, Stephanie.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to, if someone can enable me to share my screen. Thank you. Now, I am just going to turn my video off for this portion as my internet does not like it while I share my screen. So, but I will visually be back. All right, so the purpose and effect of the application is to allow non-intensive agricultural uses as defined by the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, but limited to a total of 5 nutrient units or less as a permitted use in order to continue to have a limited amount of livestock on the subject lands for a period of 3 years, whereas the urban reserve A3 zone does not permit livestock. The subject lands are approximately 2.59 acres in size and contains a single detached dwelling, a shed, 2 hen/rooster coops, and a goat/sheep house. The subject lands are serviced by municipal water and sanitary services and have existing access off of Alma Street in Nairn. The applicant has advised that the livestock has been present on the subject land since 2018 and is used for competitions through the 4-H program, as well as for personal consumption purposes. The type and quantity of livestock varies from time to time, but always remains below 5 nutrient units. The applicants advised that they currently have goats, laying hens, and roosters, but wish to maintain the ability to introduce new livestock so long as the total amount of nutrient units maintain 5 or less. The goats are contained on the subject land using electric fencing, and the goat/sheep house is located in the side yard, approximately 10.6 meters or 35 feet away from the closest dwelling within the settlement area. The applicant has advised that the goat/sheep home is placed strategically on a hill, with the home being dug into the hill to reduce noise levels and to protect the animals. The chicken coops are located in the side yard, approximately 55 meters or 180 feet away from the closest dwelling within the settlement area. The applicant is advised that the coops are located at the bottom of the hill, again to reduce noise levels. The subject lands are designated urban reserve as per Schedule A of the North Middlesex official plan, are located outside the settlement area of Nairn as per Schedule A3 of the North Middlesex official plan, and are zoned urban reserve A3 and environmental protection EP within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. The west side of the subject lands contain hazard lands as per Schedule A of the official plan and woodlands as per Schedule C of the official plan. And as you can see on your screen in front of you, the property is entirely regulated by the Asabo Bayfield Conservation Authority, which is indicated by the red hatched overlay. The subject lands are considered to be located in a prime agricultural area under the provincial policy statement, and permitted uses in the prime agricultural areas include agricultural uses such as livestock, subject to MDS, so the minimum distance separation criteria. The subject lands are located as well in the agricultural area of the County of Middlesex official plan, which again permits livestock subject to the minimum distance separation criteria. The subject lands are located within the urban reserve designation within the North Middlesex official plan. The urban reserve area is intended to serve 4 purposes. First, it protects intensive agricultural uses from locating in proximity to urban uses, thereby averting conflict. Second, it prevents urban uses from locating in proximity to existing intensive rural and agricultural uses, thereby averting disruption to agricultural productivity. Third, it creates a long-term protected corridor of land around the urban settlement areas for possible future urban expansion. And fourth, it provides a land use policy context area for certain specific and mutually compatible uses to locate strategically within the municipality. The official plan states that within the urban reserve designation, the predominant uses shall be those existing and permitted on the date of the adoption of the official plan, as well as non-intensive agricultural uses, reforestation, and public utilities. And the area on the subject lands in which livestock is housed, again, is zoned urban reserve within the North Middlesex bylaw. And the urban reserve zone permits single detached dwellings, agricultural use, equestrian use, and other limited agricultural uses, excluding the permission of livestock. It is noted that the zoning bylaw and land use planning in general does not differentiate between different types of animals. For example, the bylaw makes reference to poultry and does not differentiate between hens and roosters. Such differentiation would go beyond land use and deal more with the activity on the property. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, permit livestock within the agricultural areas subject to MDS. Additionally, as mentioned, the North Middlesex official plan permits non-intensive agricultural uses within the urban reserve designation. Although the livestock use is permitted within the policies mentioned, staff are of the opinion that the location of the livestock housing is not appropriate, as MDS setback requirements are not being met, which could create land use compatibility conflicts. The North Middlesex official plan states that in enacting a temporary use bylaw, council shall consider the following: the compatibility of the proposed use with the surrounding land uses, the adequacy of services that may be required for the proposed use, access and parking requirements, traffic impacts, and the conformity of the proposed use with the policies of this plan. Staff are of the opinion that the existing livestock has not been demonstrated to be compatible with the residential uses within the settlement area, as MDS setbacks for type B land uses are not capable of being met, which can cause odor and noise compatibility issues. Servicing, parking, and traffic impacts are considered to be non-applicable for the proposed use. And as previously mentioned, although non-intensive livestock is permitted within the urban reserve designation, MDS requirements are not being met, and therefore the use is not considered to be in conformity with the North Middlesex official plan. Staff note that the minimum distance separation is a tool used to determine land use compatibility between requiring setbacks between agricultural and non-agricultural uses in order to assist in preventing odor and noise conflicts. Subsequent to submitting the planning report in consultation with our new chief building official and OMAFRA, revised MDS calculations were completed, which require a 37-meter or 121-foot setback between type A land uses and livestock housing and manure storage, and a 74-meter or 241 feet setback between type B land uses, as opposed to the setbacks included within the planning evaluation report. The revised calculations have been included on the agenda package. It is noted that these setbacks will not decrease if the property owners have less than 5 nutrient units, as 5 nutrient units is the minimum amount that MDS implementation document contemplates. The current location of the goat/sheep house and the chicken coops are not in compliance with the MDS requirements, being located 10.6 meters or 35 feet and 55 meters or 180 feet respectively away from the closest dwelling within the settlement area boundary, whereas mentioned 74 meters or 241 feet are required. Additionally, the proposed location of the housing of livestock would not be in conformity with section 9.2.1 of the urban reserve zone, which requires a 30-meter or 98 foot setback between livestock and existing residential uses, which again is included in the zoning bylaw to ensure compatibility with adjacent residential is maintained. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the proposed application is not considered to be appropriate, as it is not consistent with the PPS and not in conformity with the county and North Middlesex official plan, as MDS setbacks are not being met. The application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and we did receive the following comments. The Asaba Bayfield Conservation Authority has noted that they are not opposed to the proposed application. And at the time of writing the subject report, staff received 3 letters from the public in support of the application and a petition in support of the application. Additionally, a letter of objection was received and subsequently withdrawn. Additionally, written submissions received subsequent to the report being finalized will be addressed in the written submission portions of the meeting. And so it is recommended that the application be denied. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. So I guess would our chief building official like to speak on that MDS before it goes any farther, just to make some comments on that?
I certainly may. Good evening, council. Thanks for having me tonight. And so the MDS calculation, when it's calculated, the user really has to establish whether the calculation should be based on a 0 livestock to whatever the proposed livestock is, or if they want to start with, say, 5 nutrient units and end in 5 nutrient units. And the way it was initially calculated, it was entered as a new livestock use. So 0 existing to maybe 8 chickens or 4 goats. And so that came up with an MDS setback that was significantly different than what I calculated. So I spoke with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food last week to find out what would be the most appropriate way to run the MDS calculation. And they suggested to me that given there was no building permit and that these buildings existed, whether they're small little sheds or barns or whatnot, that it would be more appropriate to run the MDS calculation with an existing livestock population not changing to the resulting livestock population, which significantly changes what the setbacks would be. So that's what I've done, and that's what I've provided to Stephanie.
Thank you. At this time, we would open to the owners. Do we have Garrett or Tracy here on the line? I think Tracy's there, is she not?
Hi, Brian. Garrett and I are actually both here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so bear with us. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this, and I have a script here in front of me, so I'll do my best to stay on track.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Rott, members of council and municipality of North Middlesex. My name is Tracy Roberts, and joining me here tonight is my husband, Garrett Roberts. And we are here to discuss our recent submission. We'd like to give you a brief history as to why we are here. Garrett and I purchased our home in May of 2017. We are located at 4 Alma Street, which is located outside the settlement area of Nairn as per Schedule A3 of the North Middlesex official plan. After obtaining our home, we spent 6 months working tirelessly on what we thought would be our family's forever home. We moved ourselves and our 3 children into the home in October of 2017. In 2018, we met and discussed our interest in obtaining some livestock type animals with North Middlesex bylaw officer at that time, Larry Baker. We had an extensive verbal discussion around our desires, and Larry advised there was no bylaw stating we could not have these animals. He did, however, indicate that he would like to be a part of the planning process with regards to where the animals would be located on our property, to ensure that we did not create any issues with the Ausable Bayfield protected lands, to minimize potential noise concerns of abutting neighbors, to ensure we understood what was needed for proper animal housing, and expressed he wanted to inspect the storage of our feed to ensure we would not be creating any rodent issues. Since coming to this community, I have joined the East Williams Optimist Committee, became an active 4-H leader with Middlesex. Our children participate in the local Beaver, Cubs, and Scouts programs, as well as they are active in both livestock and home skill clubs with 4-H Middlesex, and we have become active members of the Beechwood Church. Garrett has put in many hours of his own time supporting the Optimist Committee with rink setup and takedown and any other odd job that his wife may sign him up for. He does this for the greater good of our community. On January 4th, 2021, we submitted our application requesting a temporary use zoning bylaw to allow us non-intensive agricultural use, limited to a total of 5 nutrient units or less, in order to continue having a limited amount of livestock on our property for a period of 3 years. Our unique property, Mike, can you please show the, I provided you with a picture labeled property. Can you please show that
Yep.
one?
Give me a second, Tracy. I'll get these up.
Okay, thank you. As you will see in this picture, our unique property includes 2.59 acres, all zoned A3 urban reserve, non-intensive, and EP environmental protected. We are aware that our entire property is Ausable Bayfield Conservation Authority regulated. We have 2 residential neighbors at the far front of our property and one to the far, that one will do. Wasn't quite the
I
one I
can put this
wanted.
one, whatever you would
That
like.
one, perfect.
Okay.
So I'm just demonstrating here that our property is very unique. And as you can see, we do not have any residential neighbor close to the back of our yard. Back to where I was. We have 2 residential neighbors at the very front of our property and one to the far west side. The majority of our property backs onto farmland, and one A3 zoned property owned by John Rosner and Krista Munn, whom will also be speaking to you tonight. When we were placing the animals' housing in 2018 with Larry Baker's guidance, we ensured to place the animals out of the floodplains at the far rear of our property and tried to use our hill as a natural backstop for noise concerns. The chickens are located at the bottom of the hill, and the goat sheep house is dug into the side of the hill, as mentioned by Stephanie. While preparing our application, I was provided a document by Shannon Black dated December 16, 2020, outlining the Type A MDS setback distances that we needed to meet. After submitting our application, I did have a phone call discussion with Stephanie Poirier with regards to relocating our animals' housing, and I stated at that time, I could move the housing of our animals to make the MDS Type A requirements. However, that would put the animals in the far rear of our property, putting them in harm's way of spring flooding. It appears that the planner's report was prepared referencing Type B MDS and not Type A MDS. Our closest residential neighbor being 5 Alma Street, owned by Peter and Susan Roberts. With the submission of our application, I have provided a personal letter from Mr. and Mrs. Roberts stating they are in full support of us continuing to house our animals and they have no issues or concerns. I also submitted a personal letter of support from the other direct residential neighbor located at 3 Alma Street, owned by Jim and Diane Anderson, also stating they have no issues or concerns with our animals and in fact reference them as an asset to the community. Farah Tuffin and Martin Jejong are not direct neighbors of ours. However, they did provide a letter of support as well. Stephanie Poirier mentioned in her report that the AuSable Bayfield Conservation Authority has noted that they are not opposed to the proposed applications. It was brought to my attention that after submitting our application, Tinica DeJong, whom is the far west residential neighbor, did prepare and submitted a document of support to, I believe, Mayor Robb, Deputy Mayor Carnellison, and Ward 4 Councillor Keogh. My apologies, I do not have a personal copy of this or comments for direct reference. Additionally, we were able to obtain the signatures of 76 residents, and I actually believe there was 2 more added today, in the settlement of Nairn in support of us keeping our animals. While processing these petitions, we collected several positive comments, such as, these are good neighbors and upstanding neighbors of our community. Krista, John, Tracy, and Garrett supply a loving, caring, and amazing home for their animals. Living in the community, I personally never smell, hear, or see the animals. They are not a disturbance towards the community. Please allow them to be amazing parents. I have resided here for almost 15 years, and these animals have not affected my quality of life at all. They are well taken care of and should be allowed as we are in a rural area in a small community. I totally support this petition. It was brought to my attention this morning that Audrey and Peter DeJong did prepare a letter and submitted 2 additional petitions of support to council on January 30th, 2021. As of this morning, Audrey did forward the items to the municipality clerk to express her support on tonight's topic. A comment in this letter that speaks volumes in my opinion. The Roberts and Munns are perfect examples of amazing neighbors and community members. They are both fantastic families that do a lot for the community of Nairn and also the East Williams Township, North Middlesex. We have a few reasons as to why. So section 5C of the application asks for reasons as to why the rezoning is requested. We have 4 reasons as to why we have requested this zoning. The first reason being, we did our due diligence in 2018 by reaching out and obtaining the assistance of Bylaw Officer Baker. We took his suggestions with housing placement, food storage suggestions, and included him every step of the way. At no time did he provide any concern. Number 2, can you please show the picture of Clark? As mentioned earlier, our family is active in Middlesex 4-H program. Having the ability to keep a minimal amount of livestock at our home gives our children the opportunity to keep growing and learning. In 2019, our oldest daughter won Reserve Grand Champion at the Ilderton Fair. with her Old English game bird, Clark. Further to her success at the fair, she was awarded the Ilderton 4-H Poultry Club Top Member Award for 2019. Can you please show the Top Member Award picture? As I have already mentioned, we submitted a letter of support from Martin DeJong and Farah Tuffin. I'd like to read a paragraph to you from their letter so you can understand. We do not do this for our own family, but we do this to provide opportunity to every child we can. Here it is. Okay.
Our girl.
Sorry. Our girls spend a lot of time at the Roberts house in the summer, and Garrett and Tracy are always willing to answer the girls' questions and teach them the importance of proper care. They even offered to allow the girls to use their chickens so they could participate in 4-H, showing them at the local fair. We feel it is important for kids to learn about proper animal care, and we are very thankful that Garrett and Tracy are willing to teach them. In 2020, the world looked different, causing the Poultry Club to shift gears and try something new. Can you please show the picture of the chicken with the green egg? With careful planning and correct breeding, we were able to create our own olive egg chicken named Dizzy. Sorry, it's the other one. Can you pass me the Kleenex, please? As you can see, this is our oldest daughter holding Dizzy, and we actually created that chicken to lay an olive green egg, as you can see on the right side of the picture. I am happy to say that this past weekend, we have successfully incubated and hatched our first second-generation olive egger chick. That's the other picture, please. We are conforming to the official plan of North Middlesex's definition of non-intensive agricultural uses. And number 4, there has been livestock residing in the settlement of Nairn for decades, including poultry, pigs, turkeys, quail, rabbits, houses, and honeybees. Horses, sorry, and honeybees. Can you please go back to the coop picture? In conclusion, we are confident you can see all our animals have a purpose, not only for our children, but these animals are very educational and contribute to positive youth engagement in our community. Garrett and I assure you, our animals housing is well maintained to prevent any potential issues or concerns. Since obtaining our animals in 2018, we have not received a single complaint or had any interaction with a bylaw official that would state otherwise. We have outstanding support from our community, as you can see. We have done our due diligence, and we have paid the $900 fee required for this application. We should be granted permission to keep our animals on a 3-year temporary basis. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
So at this time, we do have provision for written submissions. Jackie, are you going to start on that?
Certainly. So basically, Tracy has provided reference to the 3 additional letters I do have in support of their application, and they will form part of the record. But basically, Tracy touched on the points there, so I do recognize them as support letters for the record. And the other letter was from Schlegel Urban Developments, and I believe they are present to speak to their own written submission.
I believe I see Vaughn Bender is there, and is Alec Vandersloot there as well? I think Vaughn was there.
Hello.
Go ahead, Vaughn.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, sorry, I can't see myself, so I wasn't 100% if I was on. I'm joined by my colleague, Alex Vandersloot, who is in London, Ontario tonight, and I'm coming to you from Kitchener. We've provided a letter here, which is perhaps, kind of down the middle of the road. And I'm hoping that the members of council have had a chance to take a look at it, and I won't belabor going through it. But the bottom line, I guess, is that we were circulated on the applications due to the proximity of our lands known as the Gordon Farm to the north We take no issue with what the applicants are putting forward here, other than to simply be asking the question and looking for some assurance that the use, the livestock units and so on, wouldn't be a detriment to our ultimate intended objective of moving the Gordon property forward for expansion of the Nairn community in the future. And so there's been a good discussion with Ms. Poirier along the way. Additional information regarding MDS was provided, and there was some discussion with a planning representative of ours after my letter was written here. And I think the calculation that Mr. Marsman spoke of perhaps mitigates potential impact to our property. Although I would say I'm not 100% sure if I've seen you know, the extent of that 37-meter boundary or not. But you know, so that's what our letter is about, is just regarding future potential impact.
Okay, thank you, Vaughn. Stephanie, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. Through the mayor, I guess, to council and the public. One thing I can add is, and Arnie can perhaps jump in as well if he feels the need, but in terms of MDS, it is what Vaughn has referred to is for potential impacts of MDS1 when you're introducing new dwellings in close proximity to livestock uses. That's all I really have to add at this point.
Go ahead, Arnie. You can add to that.
If I may add to that through the mayor, if there is an expansion of the settlement area, and I would need clarity to that, if this property is not in the settlement area and there is an expansion of the settlement area to include that property, then a different MDS calculation would be done. I've not done that calculation. We can certainly provide that in short order. There's some unique variables here in that you already have these livestock buildings inside of the settlement area generally and set back fairly close to neighboring homes. So I would want some clarity from the ministry again, how that would impact an extended settlement area that is practically further away than the neighboring dwellings already are. So, but there is a calculation if it is an extension of the settlement area that we've not done.
So Arnie, if I can just speak to that for a second, a question to you. It isn't, where the beginning of their property of what Vaughn is talking about is again protected property by the conservation authorities for a while. It extends over there, so the housing development would be another distance away. It isn't anywhere near their property lines where the housing would be. So, you know, that's just a comment I guess I'm making to that. Vaughn, I think you can confirm to that as well, can't you?
Yes, certainly. We are aware of the you know, floodplain or environmentally sensitive, the low-lying lands and so on, and certainly they wouldn't be developed in the future. Again, I guess it was just you know, sort of out of an abundance of caution, not knowing the exact extent, not knowing what exactly would be in a temporary use zoning bylaw, that we just thought we should you know, speak up at this point. But again, I should have added it's a beautifully maintained property that I saw on the screen, and facilities for the livestock, and you know, we come with farming backgrounds as well and so on. So you know, we're not here to take issue with what residents are doing. It's just kind of looking out for the future, which I believe is you know, in the interests of the municipality and so on as well, for expansion opportunities in the future.
All right, thank you, Vaughn. Okay, at this time, there's no other written submission, I don't think, Jack, is there? So
That's
we
correct.
do have, for public comments, I do have Connie. Yes, I do have Corey Smith, I think I have on the list. Is she here? She's not in?
Yeah, no, I can add her. I thought it was the next one, but I will add her in, Your Worship.
Yes, no, it is for this one that I have her.
Okay. Corey has been added into the meeting.
Okay. Hi, Corey, how are you?
Good, how are you doing? Can you-
Not bad. At this time, if you'd like to have comments on this application, go ahead.
Well, with what you're describing with the property setbacks and stuff of this dwelling for the animals, my really only comment was this livestock bringing in the coyotes and rodents and into our community. Every night you can hear the coyotes down that way. They're not far away. We've got people walking the streets up here, or I don't even know if it would be safe to walk down there at night, to be honest, with how close they seem to be coming. And what, I feel they're probably after the livestock. They're hungry, So that was really my only comment, is the community safety with the other wildlife being brought closer to the community.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Corey. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, that's about it.
Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, I would open it up to council. Comments, questions from council? Councilor Keough, you start.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank Tracy and Garrett for their fine presentation there. I did have the opportunity to meet with Tracy, and she did give me the tour of her property, and I was most impressed. And that was back late in the fall when this all come to light. I would just like to express again the uniqueness of this property. It is quite substantial. It's not your normal run-of-the-mill in-town type property. I can say with my farming background that yes, animal care has certainly been taken care of there. They certainly have captured that. And really, as contributors, strong contributors to the community, I think that they have done their due diligence with meeting with former bylaw enforcement officer and working hand in hand with the municipality. And at that time, there was no issues. Again, the official plan and what in the regulations that were set out, they were present at the time, and at that time, they were not detrimental to moving forward. So, having said that, they certainly have invested a lot of time, a lot of money, and quite passionate about what they do. I would like to make a motion that this goes through.
Okay. So we'll come up with a motion for that. We need a seconder for that to have discussion on it. Seconded by Councillor McClinchy, is that right? Okay, seconded by Councillor McClinchy. So discussion on that motion. Okay, Jackie, go ahead.
If I may interject there,
Yeah.
I think we just want to be clear. I want to be clear for the record as well, that there's no bylaw that has been presented for council this evening for consideration. So although you can be in support of the application, absolutely, I am proposing a recommendation with a deferral in mind until the bylaw can be provided to council for formal acceptance or decision. So what I can offer council is this draft motion that council agree in principle to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 4 2021 temporary use for 4 Alma Street, and that staff be directed to work with the applicant on a draft bylaw for council consideration, and that the decision be deferred until the draft bylaw is brought back to a subsequent meeting, which we could certainly target for March 17th, I believe, if that's what council's approves with the motion.
Okay, so you're talking about bringing that bylaw in at the next meeting.
If
Okay.
that is
If this motion here. Yeah. Is that motion Counselor Keough, does that motion work for you?
Yes, it does.
That works, and
Yes.
Counselor McKee, does that work? Okay, so now discussion on that, on the motion. I will make a comment and then I'll come to you, Counselor Moyer. Mine is, I voted against backyard chickens, and I still would vote that way. But I do agree with Counselor Keough that this is a different property. This isn't what we would consider a backyard chicken. You know, they have 2.9 acres, I believe it is. It is a very interesting property within the community. And because it is a temporary use, I think I did talk to Tracy and Garrett and said I would have trouble supporting, you know, permanent use, but it being a temporary use, it allows them to carry on, but it also doesn't mean the next person can put chickens in. You know, so I would be in support of that motion as well. Counselor Moyer, go ahead.
Well, you stole my thunder there, Brian. You're pretty well.
Oh, sorry, Gord.
I was going to say, but yeah, Mike, I'm sorry, same concern as you, that down the road, you know, how many more of these will be coming along? And just a precedent that it could be setting. But being the uniqueness of the property and that there was some input from the municipality back in 2017 or 2018, some direction given there. I think I could support this for a 3-year temporary time as well.
Any other comments to this? Counselor Hemming and then Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Yeah, I'm in full support of it, always have been. I just want to say good report on good proposal or presentation by Garrett and Tracy, and Stephanie, you did a good job as well, putting your side forward too. But it's just a unique chunk of property in the way that they handle it. So I too agree with what everybody else is saying. It's a good. I think it's the right thing to do.
Deputy Mayor Canellis.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. And like yourself, I did vote against backyard chickens in our last time that we discussed this issue. However, I took the opportunity to visit this particular location and speak with the applicants in person. And I was very impressed. I never thought I'd see a blue egg or a green egg, whatever color it was, but I mean, it was very impressive. And the buildings and the structure and the property is extremely well maintained. While I was there, some neighbors came up and spoke with me in support of the applicants as well. And as you indicated, this is a unique property. It's not like it's located in the heart of town. It's on the outskirts of town. And you know, given that they followed the advice of the bylaw officer back in a couple of years ago, I'm in support of this applicant as well.
Okay, thank you. I think one other comment I would make, that I think that Mr. Smith made a good point, though, that if they're not looked after properly, it is an issue with rodents, with coyotes and stuff. But having seen the property, I agree that it's very well maintained. Any other comments? If not, we have a motion in front of us. And could you read that again, Jackie, please, that motion?
Yes, I will. And I just would like to, just as a point of process, so
Yep.
This is concluding the public meeting portion of it. When the bylaw comes back before council, there would be no further public meeting, but there would be just a follow-up report from the planner outlining the draft bylaw before council, which would then be the decision on the application. So this motion is not the decision on the application. The appeal period would begin after the bylaw is passed. So I just want to clarify that for anybody watching. So again, the decision is a deferral at this time, and then it will come back before council in draft bylaw form for full consideration at that time. So the motion before council is that council agree in principle to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 4 2021 temporary use for 4 Alma Street, and that staff be directed to work with the applicant on a draft bylaw for council consideration, and that a decision be deferred until the draft bylaw is brought back to a subsequent meeting, which is being targeted for March 17th.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion All in favor? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Mayor Rob, if I may, there was a
Yes.
note posted by Ms. Roberts asking what this actually means. If you could perhaps clarify for her, please.
Okay, so we have made a motion of support. Jackie, would you like to, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, yes, absolutely. So the application decision is being deferred until the draft bylaw is brought back before council, but you will see from the motion that council is in support of the application, but there was not a draft bylaw this evening for them to make a decision on it. So in order for them to have proper time to look at a draft bylaw, the decision is deferred by what this motion is, how it's worded.
Yes. The official decision will be at the next meeting. Does that clarify? I hope that clarifies what Tracy's still there, I think. I hope that clarifies. Tracy, does it?
I really just want to know, does that mean I get to keep them?
Yes.
Thank you.
And they'll work with you on the bylaw that they bring forward for the 17th.
Thank you.
Okay, Tracy. All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone. So our next piece of business is, I'm trying to find, sorry, I'm having a bit of issue. I'm having some internet issues. So it's another temporary use. And that is, I'm trying to get the address off of it, sorry. I lost my agenda. Oh, so for the public meeting for consideration temporary use zoning bylaw for 4486 Queens Ave. And that's Krista Munn and John Rosner. And so do we have?
Yeah,
Chris-
just hold on a sec. I'm adding them
Okay,
to the meeting, Your Worship.
Yep, absolutely.
Hello.
Okay, Krista, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So we'll start first off with Stephanie, if you would go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just again going to share my screen. All right, so the purpose and effect of the application is to allow a non-intensive agricultural uses and equestrian use as defined by the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, but limited to a total of 5 nutrient units or less as permitted uses in order to continue to have a limited amount of livestock on the subject lands for a period of 3 years, whereas the urban reserve A3 zone does not permit livestock. The subject lands are approximately 3.26 acres in size and contain a single detached dwelling, a barn, a shed, a pool, and a stable/barn. The subject lands are serviced by municipal water and sanitary services and have existing access off of Queen Street in Nairn. The applicant has advised that the livestock has been present on the subject lands for several years and would like to continue to be permitted to do so while respecting the surrounding residential uses. The type and quantity of livestock varies from time to time, but always remains below 5 nutrient units. The applicants advise that they currently have 8 hens, 8 quail, and 4 beehives, which are equal to approximately 0.11 nutrient units, but wish to maintain the ability to introduce new livestock so long as the total amount of nutrient units are 5 or less. The livestock is to be contained to the rear of the subject lands by fencing, and the stable/barn where the livestock is housed is located approximately 84 meters or 275 feet away from the closest dwelling within the settlement area boundary. The front portion of the subject lands are located within the settlement area boundary of Nairn and are designated residential area. And the rear portion of the subject lands are located outside of the settlement area boundary and are designated urban reserve as per Schedule A and A3 of the North Middlesex official plan. The front portion of the subject lands are zoned residential density 1, R1, which you can see on your screen in front of you, and the rear portion of the subject lands are zoned urban reserve A3 within the zoning bylaw. The rear portion of the lands contain hazard lands as per Schedule A of the North Middlesex official plan and woodlands as per Schedule C of the North Middlesex official plan. Additionally, the rear of the property is entirely regulated by the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority, which is shown as the red hatched area on your screen. The rear of the subject lands are considered to be located in a prime agricultural area under the provincial policy statement, and permitted uses in prime agricultural areas include agricultural uses such as livestock, subject to the minimum distance separation criteria. The rear of the subject lands are located in the agricultural area of the County of Middlesex official plan, which permits livestock subject to MDS. The rear of the subject lands are located within the urban reserve designation within the North Middlesex official plan. The official plan states that within the urban reserve designation, the predominant uses of land shall be those uses existing and permitted on the date of the adoption of this plan, as well as non-intensive agricultural uses, reforestation, and public utilities. The rear of the subject lands are zoned urban reserve within the North Middlesex zoning bylaw. The urban reserve zone permits single detached dwellings, agricultural use, equestrian use, and other limited agricultural uses, excluding the permission of livestock. It is noted that the zoning bylaw and land use planning in general does not differentiate between different types of animals. For example, the bylaw makes reference to poultry, but does not differentiate between hens and roosters. Such differentiation would go beyond land use and deal more with an activity on the property. As mentioned, the PPS county official plan permit livestock within agricultural areas subject to MDS. Additionally, the North Middlesex official plan permits non-intensive agricultural uses within the urban reserve designation. Subsequent to submitting the planning report, in consultation with our new chief building official and OMAFRA, revised MDS calculations were completed, which require a 37 meter or 121 feet setback between type A land uses and livestock housing and manure storage, and a 74 meter setback between type B land uses, as opposed to the setbacks included within the planning evaluation report. And again, the revised MDS calculations have been posted on the agenda. The North Middlesex official plan states that in enacting a temporary use bylaw, council shall consider the following: the compatibility of the proposed use with the surrounding land uses, the adequacy of any services that may be required for the proposed use, access and parking requirements, traffic impacts, and the conformity of the proposed use with the policies of this plan. Staff are of the opinion that the existing livestock has been demonstrated to be compatible with the residential uses within the settlement area boundaries, as MDS setbacks for type B uses are capable of being met. Servicing, parking, and traffic impacts are considered to be non-applicable for the proposed use. And non-intensive livestock is permitted within the urban reserve designation, subject to MDS requirements, which are being met, and therefore the use is considered to be in conformity with the North Middlesex official plan. Staff note that MDS is a tool used to determine land use compatibility by requiring setbacks between agricultural and non-agricultural uses in order to assist in preventing odor and noise conflicts. It is noted that the setbacks will not decrease if the property owners have less than 5 nutrient units, as 5 nutrient units is the minimum amount that MDS implementation document contemplates. And again, the applicants have demonstrated that the proposed housing of livestock as well as the manure storage complies with MDS requirements for type A and B land uses. Additionally, the proposed location of the housing of livestock remains in conformity with section 9.2.1 of the urban reserve zone, which requires a 30-meter or 98 feet setback between livestock existing residential uses, as well as the zoning standards in section 9.3.1. Staff have been advised that the existing and newly proposed fencing will contain the livestock within the A3 portion of the subject land, preventing the animals from wandering into the residential portion of the property. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the proposed application is considered to be appropriate as it is consistent with the PPS and as in conformity with the county and North Middlesex official plans as MDS setbacks are being met. The notice of the application has been circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act, and we did receive the following comments. Asabo Bayfield Conservation Authority has noted that they are not opposed to the proposed application. At the time of writing the subject report, staff received 3 letters from the public in support of the application, as well as a petition in support of the application. Additionally, a letter of objection was received and subsequently withdrawn. And any additional written submissions received after the report was written will be addressed in the written submission portions of this meeting. So it is recommended, in light of the revised MDS calculations, staff support the proposal in principle and recommend that staff be directed to prepare a temporary use bylaw to that effect. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Krista, at this time, Krista, who's going to speak? Krista or John?
I will, please.
Okay, Krista, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Ropp and members of council. My name is Krista Munn, and my husband, John Rosner, and I would like to first thank staff and members of council for your time and for any assistance you have provided throughout this process. We've resided in Nairn for the past 15 years with our children. One of the reasons for our decision to move to North Middlesex and purchase this specific property was the acreage, the livestock buildings, and the intention to continue to use the land and buildings for their intended purpose. This is why we met with the municipality shortly after purchasing our property to ensure that we understood the agricultural zoning and survey of our property and to try to eliminate any future issues or concerns. Our property has 2 barns, one built in 1911 and another in 1981, as well as a paddock and other livestock fencing, and it's quite evident that it has been used for agriculture, including livestock, for many decades. While John and I do believe our property is legal non-conforming due to its history and use, we have tried to work in a very positive and respectful manner with the municipality to apply without prejudice for this zoning application in the hopes of finding a positive resolution for everyone involved. Our animals are very important to us, and they're very much loved, especially by our children. Not only have our children learned a great deal of responsibility in assisting us to care for them, but they find great comfort in these animals as well. We provide great care and protection to all of our animals to ensure their needs are met and to limit any possible concerns. And our family would not have taken on the responsibility of caring for them if we did not believe that we were permitted to do so based on all of the factors we have discussed. In regards to the application, we've done everything we can to eliminate any potential issues or concerns, and this was not without challenges during a pandemic, the current season, and the cost and logistics of such. We've moved everything to our back barn on our agricultural land that is in a protected area down a hillside, well outside of the Nairn community settlement and residential areas, to ensure that we meet all of the required MDS setbacks. We wanted to be respectful of our neighbors, so we contacted everyone who resides within 120 meters to discuss what we have done and will continue to do to eliminate any potential issues and to provide an opportunity to discuss any questions or concerns. We advised everyone that we do not have roosters, although we did have some chicks for a short period of time and some grew into roosters, but we rehomed them as quickly as possible. We discussed that because of the location of our specific property, we will not be keeping roosters or any other animal that is known to be a potential issue for noise, but we fully support others in being able to keep these animals that have different circumstances than our own, as we recognize their importance in agriculture. Our animals will only be housed in our existing barn, and in the area to the side of it, to meet all of the MDS setbacks that are applicable for our specific property. And this location is in an elevated area that is not prone to flooding or water retention. Our coops are less than 100 square feet and are not permanent structures. And we do not personally sell eggs, but under our zoning, farm gate does appear to be permitted. We're committed to continuing to keep a reasonable amount of livestock. And as we have no intention of keeping close to 5 nutrient units, we're more than willing to reduce the maximum to 3 nutrient units if that would be helpful to council. In addition to this, we're also willing to use whatever manure storage system that council would be comfortable with for the very minimal amount of manure that is not used as compost. We have had honeybees on our property for years without issue, and we're proud to be able to contribute to their survival. While we believe it is the wasps that are a concern and not our honeybees, we have said that we will relocate our hives in the spring to place them further back on our agricultural land, although this is not required for MDS setbacks. We've never had an issue with predators or vermin, and we're knowledgeable about all livestock that we keep, as well as biosecurity and the prevention of zoonotic diseases. Our animals are handled and maintained appropriately to reduce any and all risks, and our children have been educated on the importance of this as well. While we're aware that there was a letter of opposition filed and then subsequently withdrawn, we believe that we have already done everything possible through applying for this planning application to ensure that our property will not impact those around us. John and I have always strived to be very respectful neighbors and to make a positive impact within our community through volunteering and other community involvement over the years. We have valued living in a rural farming community and the variety of agriculture that surrounds us. We love our property and all of the benefits it has had for our children and ourselves over the years. We especially love living in our little hamlet of Nairn and feel very blessed to have so many wonderful neighbors in such a great little community to call home. We have a great deal of support from our small community, as shown in the community petition that was submitted to the municipality. The stated purpose of this petition was for Nairn residents with agricultural land to be able to continue to use their land for non-intensive agricultural purposes, including the keeping of their livestock. A copy of these petitions are included as an attachment for this meeting, and they were very much a challenge to undertake in the midst of a pandemic, as we couldn't safely go door to door or speak with all residents. Even though there are less than 100 homes within the Nairn community settlement, we were able to speak to and collect 78 petitions that included the support of 85 residents of Nairn. In addition to this petition, we also received letters of support from our direct neighbors that are included as an attachment for this meeting as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Krista. At this time, Jackie, for written submissions.
Thank you. So the additional letters of support that came in today from Peter and Audrey Dijon and Corey Dijon, they will form part of the record. And additionally, Schlegel Urban Development provided a written submission that they are still on if they had any additional comments.
Yvonne, would you have any more comments you'd like to make to this?
No, Mr. Mayor, members of council, no additional comments. I guess one request, if there's a draft zoning bylaw that we could be circulated on, we would appreciate that, but the rest of our comments are the same.
Okay, thank you. I think that's quite possible, is it not, Jackie?
Yes.
Send them through? Okay. All right, thank you. I do believe that Mr. Smith is still there. I think Corey's still on. Is there anything you'd like to add, Corey?
I don't really have any further comments, but I'd like you to keep in mind all these signed petitions are from residents that aren't even nearby the property. They're at the other end of Nairn where these animals and the smells and the noise, it doesn't affect anyone other than people that are closer by. So I think you should consider where these petitions have been signed in relation to how close they are to the property where the actual livestock is. And I would say that too with the last meeting, before you can totally make up your mind. No community is allowed chickens in their property. I don't care how big the property is. Nairn's not a farm. It's not a farm. There's other properties here that that don't have the chickens, and there's other areas around that aren't allowed to have chickens on their property or livestock. So that's all I got to say.
Okay.
I wouldn't go on all these petitions that were signed. The majority of them aren't even near the property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Corey. That's why we are doing a bylaw for this. This is deferred to do bylaw to make sure we get a good bylaw on this one. At this time, I don't think anyone else is registered. I have no one else. Okay, council. Comment from council? Council Keogh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to again make mention about the uniqueness of this property and how long that Krista Munn and John Rosner have had this arrangement. It has been quite some time. In fact, it goes back to even one more staff member that was long employed with the municipality. So their keeping of livestock has been going on for quite some time, and until recent, I don't think it has been a problem because there was really no, it wasn't brought to the forefront. I would like to also make mention that as far as the attraction of coyotes to the area, well, cats that are let out at night are also an attraction to a coyote. So I don't think that either one of these two properties are contributing to the attraction of predators because they are, however, in encased areas, and with living along an environmentally protected area, whether it be the Nairn Creek or the Bear Creek or any tributary to the Asable, we're going to have that. So again, I'd just like to make support for both Krista and John's application as well, and go from there.
All right, thank you. Other comments from council? No other comments from council. What is your wish? Councillor Hemming.
Yes, I'd like to move the motion that we carry forward with this for them. So same as last.
Okay, Jackie, you want to read that motion? I guess I should get a seconder first. Councillor Keogh seconded. Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
So I have prepared a similar motion for council's consideration as well. So the motion would be that council agree in principle to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, application ZBA 5/2021, temporary use for 4486 Queens Ave, and that staff be directed to work with the applicant on a draft bylaw for council consideration, and that the decision be deferred until the draft bylaw is brought back to a subsequent meeting. Could be March 17th.
Okay, did everyone get that?
Yep.
All right, other discussion on the motion? In favor? In favor of the motion? It is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to, for the benefit of Krista, just to let you know again that so the public meeting has concluded, but this will be coming back in draft bylaw form for council's formal consideration at the next meeting once the draft bylaw has been prepared.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Krista. Our next item of business is department reports. Middlesex Center, the 3-year agreement for the building services. And I think, Arnie, you're staying on for this, aren't you? Great, perfect. So who's going to start here? Jonathan Graham? Go ahead, Jonathan.
Through your worships, members of council, the report presented to you tonight and the recommendation before you is that council directs staff to enter into the attached building service agreement with Middlesex Center for a period of 3 years. A little background on this initiative. As you're aware, we have a joint building service arrangement with Adelaide Metcalfe and Southwest currently to date. Through some staffing gaps that became relevant in the beginning of this year, we needed to seek an alternative in order to fulfill our obligation under the Municipal Act in our building department. Subsequently, we went back to Middlesex Center to retain an interim solution similar to what we did previously. And in discussion with the Joint Building Committee, which is still active to date, it was subsequently decided that we would like to move ahead holistically, all three municipalities with with Middlesex Center as a contracted service. This would bolster up a Middlesex Center, not only including themselves, but Luke and Badolf. The agreement is attached for your consideration. The motion from the Joint Building Committee is also provided. One thing or two things I'd like to note: contingent on this service arrangement, cloud permit as a tool from Revolta must be used. The municipality is currently enrolled in that solution, so we would just maintain that. We were in a state of trial period when we first entered into that. Now we're looking into the renewal of that, and that will be funded through the Modernization grant. Furthermore, through the analysis and based off the permits numbers from the last 2 years between North Middlesex, Southwest, and Adelaide Metcalfe, North Middlesex, between the three of us, would take about 50% of the services from our neighboring municipalities. We are actually positioned quite well in terms of travel costs, accessibility to Arnie and his team, where other municipalities might not be so fortunate, Southwest primarily. So we're looking forward to moving ahead with this. We did, again, this trial we had previously in a more holistic terms of having a building department that can meet our needs on a demand basis. Some service levels that council might be interested in. Staff will still receive building permits by paper. We have to do that, but we'll be funneling into cloud permit the general public. Frontline staff will also take inquiries, push them on to Arnie's team. Obviously, he was part of this planning file that we just heard, the two of them. So we're in an informal situation right now. So that this is making it a formal arrangement for a period of 3 years. Are there any questions from the floor?
All right, questions from council. Councillor Moyer, then the deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have a couple questions on it. In regards to the cloud permit, I know there seem to be some issues, and our former CBO wasn't very pleased with it. Have those issues been resolved? And then the second is the financial. You thought there's a fixed cost on that. Is this the same financial agreements that we would have had with the three municipalities, or is this going to be an increased cost to us?
Through your worship, and I'll answer your second question first in terms of financial. So last year we had about a 2.5 month transition period with fixed retirement to the joint building team and our former CBO Shannon Black. Through that time, our costs were incurred around $6,000. So obviously we want to see more building permits come through. So that's why we're also addressing our fee schedule as well, because it's one of the only departments in the municipality that should be cost neutral. So we'll be able to recoup costs, but we're not forecasting a drastic increase in our fees to the local residents. To answer your second question in terms of cloud permit, I have been watching what they've been doing in the background, and although it's still in its preliminary stages, before it was just a concept in terms of the issues that were identified, one being impact and one being compatibility with our Keystone software. And I can say that they are working towards those solutions now, where in fact, we're already even seeing Keystone having an importing module. So it's going to help us reduce duplication, but that's something that's still in the works, I believe, Arnie, and that'll probably be rolling out at the end of this year, most likely. I'm not an IT guy, but that's what my gut's telling me.
Okay, go ahead, Arnie, respond to that.
Yeah, just to provide a bit more information, I can confirm that the agreement that's presented to North Middlesex generally reflects our agreement with Luke and Biddulph. So it's a consistent agreement with what we have with them as well. It's nothing extra special that's geared towards the new 3 municipalities. With regards to cloud permit, we were the first in the province to go live with it in the summer of 2019. And since then, they've grown to bringing in over 50 municipalities in Ontario, and it's growing considerably yet. And it's getting better all the time. All that said, if there is some concern from the residents that they don't want to apply online and electronically, we certainly can accept the paper applications, and we would put them into cloud permit ourselves, but we can work with them the old school way, if we want to call it that, leaving inspection stickers and talking on the phone and emails for inspection requests and results. But I think we'll all find that it's the future, and the future is here now. So it's world-class technology that's getting easier to use all the time.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan?
Before we move to Deputy Mayor Cornelius, I would just also like to tell council that the monetary amount that we were subject to previously last year is the exact same amount that's being presented now. It's just the terms of the relationship have now shifted to a 3-year, and just for your information.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Cornelius.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Actually, Councillor Moore did ask most of the questions I was going to ask, but I did have one that I wanted to ask Arnie, if I may. And that is, I've been contacted by a few contractors here who had some concerns that the inspections were not being done until in the afternoon, when they were requesting them in the morning so they could get some backfilling done and move on with their forming, et cetera, et cetera. Will that continue? Like, is there a chance that these inspections can occur before, like in the morning or earlier in the day?
Yeah, through the mayor, we will do what we can to be as efficient with our time as possible. Quite often, we can't head up to Park Hill twice a day. So if there's a couple inspections that really need it in the morning, we'll find a way to make that work. Quite often, we can look at something at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the status of the 3 o'clock inspection, nothing much changes between 3 o'clock and 9 a.m. really. So we're finding a way. For example, a footing inspection, they'll dig the basement on an afternoon the day before and call for a footing inspection the next day potentially. So we could look at that excavation the day before. And the builders in Luke and Biddulph and Middlesex Center have really adapted well to this, and I have no doubt we'll be able to do the same thing with the builders in these 3. But we'll do the best we can to work around everybody's schedule. But we have to
Thank you. Thank you, Arnie. I'll pass that on to the contractors. I'm sure they'll be pleased. Thank you.
Okay, who else? Who else had a question? Other questions from council? No, I guess mine is just a simple one, in the fact that as a resident in North Middlesex, what has changed if I want to contact for a building permit? It's still the same process. I phone the office, or can you just clarify that? Jonathan.
Through your worship, staff have arranged some IT solutions in that regard. We're still working off generic emails similar to the joint building team that we had previously. So now those are being directed to Middlesex Center's blanket email address as well. But it's at the front end, it's looking like North Middlesex, so the general public doesn't really see that. In terms of frontline staff and picking up the call, we're working on tools on scheduling that our frontline staff have access to the inspectors that'll be in and around the area. We do have a working relationship with them. Our former building official, he was out of the office as well during the days. So sometimes they'll have to get back to you, right? So, but you know, I can honestly say in the last 3 weeks that we've been transitioning through this, and I have been watching, I haven't gotten a complaint after the fact that says nobody got back to me in, you know, a reasonable fashion. So that means somebody is receiving it on the other end.
All right, thank you. Councillor Moyer.
Thanks, Ken. Will we have, as it was in the past, will we have designated days that there will be actually inspectors in our offices, a couple days a week?
You want me
Go
to
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, at this time, that can be arranged if really necessary. What we're trying to provide right now is our availability every day of the week. So we don't want to limit it just to Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I think Southwest was pleased with that response in that they had inspections only specific days of the week that will be available every day of the week. If somebody wants to meet with us, we can arrange to meet with them. And also by phone, we're available anytime. But right now, our intention is to work out of our office and out of our home in Middlesex Center and abroad, and to not specifically have dates and times that will be in the office.
Okay, and what does, I guess this might be a question more for Jonathan, what does that do for our vehicle situation?
Through your worship, that is something that we are actually going to reassess and come back to council in the future. So it is on my docket, but I also need to, and we've had a lot of internal conversations, and I know I'm getting off to the side a little bit. We're trying to find the bottlenecks within the organization that are driven by the pandemic, and then the bottlenecks that are driven solely by the organization. And before we react to a situation, I want to make sure that we have a baseline that we know that needs to work. And even then, you know, we got some large planning files coming through, so we don't know what the exact need will be, but it is on my radar that will have to be addressed, or at least cycled into our fleet, because it is our newest piece of equipment.
Thank you.
Other questions from council? No other questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. What's your wish? Councillor Knellison, you're moving that recommendation? Moved by Deputy Mayor Knellison and seconded by Councillor Keogh. All in favor? All in favor, carried. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thanks, Arnie.
All right. Any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Perfect, thank you. Our next report is a municipal modernization program, and that is Tracy.
Thank you, Your Worship. In early 2019, recognizing the limited capacity to plan, modernize, and improve the way in which services were being delivered by Ontario small and rural municipalities, the province launched a municipal modernization program. And under this program, 405 Ontario municipalities received funding based on their population and whether they were urban or rural. North Middlesex received a one-time unconditional grant of $550,516. The province offered a second round of funding in October 2019, which was application-based, and we were lucky enough to obtain funding for the line-by-line audit. In early 2021, the province introduced a second intake, which is also application-based. To be eligible for this intake 2, we must confirm with the province that we have spent or allocated all of the one-time unconditional funding. So at this point, we've allocated $74,266 in 2020, $45,023 in 2021. And through this report, staff is looking for approval to expense the council chamber connectivity of $23,865 through this fund. With this approval from council, we are left with $407,362 unallocated funds. As well as this report, staff is looking for approval to allocate the remaining monies for a capital asset plan, ERP solution, and water wastewater supervisor control upgrades. And we're also looking for approval to proceed with an application through intake 2 for the upgrade of SCADA software at the Elsa Craig wastewater treatment plants. Are there any questions on the report?
Questions from council on the report? No questions? No questions. We have a recommendation in front of you. Moved by Councillor Nickel, second by Councillor McClinchy. In favor? Carried. Thank you, Tracy. Passing of accounts. That's you again, Tracy.
Thank you. This report is recommending the payment of the accounts in the amount of $558,705.70. Are there any questions on the accounts payable?
Questions? Deputy Mayor Knellison.
I have one. I think this one may be for Jonathan, if I may. I see that the mini excavator was rented, I believe, for $280. What length of time is that, does that accommodate? Is that a day?
Through your worship, do you mind mentioning what the rental company was, by the way? I might be able to pull it up rather quickly here.
Actually, I haven't got, I was still in municipal modernization. I gotta click on there. I don't know if it was CarQuest in town or not. I don't know. I'm just asking, like the $280, would that, I imagine that would be for the day, would it not?
Most likely, but I can confirm with you tomorrow.
Okay, let's leave it till tomorrow. It's not that important. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? No other? Counselor Hemming. I think
Yeah, Tracy, there's one, it was a refund, tax refund check to Nethercott Dairy. Is that the regular amount, or is that just an error or something? Or
That's,
it was 30.
yeah, through your worship. If you remember, we had conversations how a lot of the farm properties were coming on as residential. So this was 4 farms that came on as residential and paid that tax, and then it was adjusted through impact to go back to farmland. So that was just a credit on his account that we had to refund. So.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Other questions? Other questions? No other questions? We need a motion to pay our accounts. Counselor Hemming? Counselor Moyer? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Committee reports. Committee reports. Lake Huron Pipeline? Nothing?
No, there's a meeting tomorrow. So.
Sorry, I don't know if it's my internet that's breaking up tonight or what was that? Try it again, Andy.
Yeah, no, there's a Zoom meeting tomorrow. So.
Okay, thank you. ABCA?
Nothing.
Nothing to add. Blue Water? EDAC? Nothing there. Local School Advisory? See, you have a meeting set. Okay, and that's April 15th, correct?
Correct. We've also asked them to come and talk with council.
Okay.
At a meeting.
Perfect. Rec Committee? Nothing there. Water, wastewater, Councilor Morton, nothing there. That hasn't met. Policy, we had a meeting last Thursday, and there will be a couple of policies coming forward to council as a result of that meeting. They aren't on this meeting, but they will be coming forward. Building Committee or Fire Committee, I should say.
We did have a meeting. It was Fire Committee, not so much the Build Committee last week, and we'll have the minutes prepared here shortly.
Thank you. Thank you. Aqua Advisory Board, nothing? All right. Correspondence, I have no correspondence. Wow. I think that's the first time I've seen that. Other or urgent business, other business. No one has other business?
Oh, yeah, I will, sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Canales.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Yeah, just I'd like to update council, I guess, a little bit on the Rural Education Task Force. We're meeting on a regular basis, and they're in the stage now of preparing recommendations moving forward. What's interesting to note is that there's pretty much unanimous consensus that the rural communities are essential and culturally different from the larger urban centers. And it's surprising that there's a number of board members that are supportive of that. Where this will go, we're not really sure, but it's the dialogue is certainly picking up, and it's becoming, hopefully we'll come up with some good ideas. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions for Adrian on that? No? Any other business? Okay, if not, you see the deferred items, communication, including county council. Adrian?
None.
I'll just make comment to it that the county budget is going to council on the 9th of March, which is next Tuesday, I believe. And so it'll go ahead, Adrian.
Did you keep your pencil sharp, Mayor Rob? You're on the budget committee.
Yes, they had to sharpen a lot. there was a lot of pencil sharpening to do on it. There was. And I won't really talk too much about that because it's going to council.
Yes, I understand.
After it goes to county council, we can discuss it more. And, but yeah, they definitely had to sharpen pencils. There's some pretty heavy drivers on the, back on the county side, but yes. So that is going through on the 9th. All right. The reading of the bylaws.
Thank you. So bylaw 24 is to amend an assessment schedule for the Lawrence Drain. Bylaw 25 is to authorize the agreement with Middlesex Center for Building Department Services. And bylaw 26 is the confirming bylaw for the February 24th budget and the March 3rd meeting. We're looking for first and second reading on all bylaws.
First and second, Councillor McClinchy and Councillor Keogh. All in favor? Carried.
And third and final on all bylaws.
Third and final. Councillor Nicol, Councillor Moyer, all in favor? Carried. All right, we have no closed meeting. So just one last thing is adjournment, and I do look forward to the time where we meet in person. I've had internet issues all night. Moved by Councillor McClinchy and seconded by Councillor Keogh.